You are listening to the Bring Joy Forward podcast. Conversations to explore, heal, and grow. You can find us on bringjoyforward.com and join us in our community group on Facebook. We now take you to the episode. Thank you for joining us. Hello, and welcome to the Bring Joy Forward podcast. I am Shannon Dias with Imagine If, resident magic maker here at Bring Joy Forward.
I'm Ramona Crabtree-Falkner with Authentic Life Journey.
I'm Stacy Piccolo from Mind Movement Coaching.
I'm Shannon Brown with Open Door Healing.
And we are here to talk to you today about what to do with those negative, pesky emotions. While we're doing this, we are actually recording this in a different way than we normally do. And we, I think, all experienced a little bit of our own negative emotions as we started this out. So we think it's pretty appropriate. I wanted to start out by just kind of saying, in general, I think this applies for everyone in here. In general, we don't use negative or positive to describe the emotions. Emotions are just emotions. But we wanted to kind of throw that around and talk about, the words that we use, how we feel about stuff, how we actually can move that energy around in positive ways to promote healing. So I thought we'd start with just the words negative when we're talking about negative emotions. Why do we say that? What kind of connotations does it bring about? Anybody want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's what we were programmed to believe. It's not okay to feel that.
Yes. Stuff it down.
I mean, I think that where I'm at right now, and thank Goddess that I have these amazing soul sisters to support me. I have experienced a working relationship with someone that is uncomfortable with emotional expression and was on more than one occasion asked to take it and put it aside and not deal with it and move on and I know that I've been working with this person so that I can say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, what I teach, how I work with my clients is, hey, that emotion is a messenger. You need to give it space.
Absolutely.
You need to allow it to exist instead of avoiding or pushing or drinking or eating it away. We need to say, what are you trying to tell me that I do not know about myself right now? And it's literally been in the last 24 hours that I came to the other side of it. My daughter-in-law walked in tonight and she was like, you are like 360, a completely different person today. I'm like, thank you. Welcome to the Gemini. But
so accurate.
That's how it works. Like once I actually process it, I'm like, all right, I'm good. Let's go. And it's not trapped in my body, causing me pain and suffering physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. So I don't view it as negative. I view it as process. I view it as I'm going there. I'm going to get into it. I'm going to dig around and excavate and allow it and love it, because then I can heal it.
Heck yeah, absolutely. Yeah, be the witness and see what it is that you need to see. What do you need to hear? Being allowed to feel whatever you need to feel is so often a thing that is, like you said, this is a specific instance that you had. It's all the time in our everyday life. When we go out the door, we're kind of putting the shields up and putting the coat of arms on, so that we don't have all of those emotions kind of hanging out. You go to your job, you feeling all the things about whatever is happening in that day, and you're not able to just really be in that space. But you do have to do something with those emotions at some point, because they do manifest in ways that are harmful. So allowing yourself that time to, you can yell. It's okay to yell. It's okay to smash things around. It's okay to do those things. in a healthy way, right? They have rage rooms for that reason, go in and it's fun. It's fun to throw, crystal glass into a fireplace and see what happens, Um, I just kind of wanted to touch on the whole idea of the mirror in this, right? So it's that specific, what is triggering you in that moment when you're having whatever it is that you're feeling at that point, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, frustration, whatever that emotion is, that is deemed negative, right? But it's not negative, whatever that emotion is that you're feeling. Why? Stick with that space of, what does this mean to you? Why is it causing you that much stress? Is it making you face something that you don't want to face? Are you feel fearful of something, and kind of poke around in that a little bit? Somebody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I think the reason why people don't want to feel negative emotions is because it's uncomfortable. It shows up somewhere in your body. Even if people don't notice it, it can be very, very subtle, but it's just a discomfort that arises. And I kind of like went through a very intense practice of sitting with the emotion, feeling it in your body, as maybe we all have. But just certain emotions would be brutal to feel in your body. You're not going to die. You're not going to die if you feel the emotions, right? So that's one good thing to remember. But I remember a time where there was this situation happening, and I started noticing, in my third chakra, it was just like this grinding. It was just this awful, my gosh, it was like knots in my stomach. And then I started to put it together that obviously that is my control center. That is when it's imbalanced, right? I will want control that I don't have. And so I just realized that, the more I sat with it, the more I allowed it to dissolve. There's an energetic diffusion technique that I work with that just allows it to soften and sort of permeate the boundary of where it was and just dissolve, kind of thing, So, you really do have to feel it to heal it. I'm really sick of saying and hearing that, but it's true.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, if you can contain a negative emotion to the point where you can just let it dissolve, I think that's a really nice thing to do with it. But there are also many, many things you can do with it, like Shannon was saying. Sometimes I feel anger that comes up, or sometimes I feel enraged and I have to do something. I can't just sit there and feel enraged quietly. I have to get up, I have to move, maybe bend over, could be something, maybe go for a run, because maybe, the back of my thighs are needing to run because I'm in a fight or flight. But anyway, there's a lot of things you can do, dance, just many things. But I have to move with them a lot of the time if it's too intense, personally.
Yeah. I'm going to pick on Shannon a little bit, because Shannon is probably running from this conversation in its entirety right now, because Shannon does not like to go into the shadows and face those negative emotions. And Shannon has had a lot of them and a lot of life thrown at her, especially recently. So while we're talking about all of these, are you hiding in the corner, or?
No, and yes, I'm listening and I'm laughing inside, because yes, Ramona's like, yeah, I'm jumping in, and Stacy's like, yeah, I'm doing this, and I'm like, here's a potato chip, I'll deal with it later. Well, even but I've noticed that I have been given information that I really need to dance with my shadow this year, or else next year's going to be a shit show. So I'm like, okay, we're going into it. Okay. So I'm taking steps to do that as delicately and as fun as possible. So just two things. Well, there's lots of things, but two things that jump into my mind. So the other day, heading over to my parents, it's usually not a fun time for me. It is full of negativity. And I was able to take some information from Ramona. And first I did a meditation before I went, which calmed me down. And then one of the things that kept coming up was just be present. Just act like there's no past, act like there's no future. This is the reason that you're going over there. And this is the only reason. There was one thing, we were putting my mom's Christmas things away last Friday. Finally, she was letting me put them away. I was like, otherwise, just keep them up for the rest of the year, Mom. But it went well because I was able to stand back and just be a witness. And I didn't push. I didn't, oh, here, we need to do this. We need to do that. I'm here to do this. Let's get this done. And then I need to go. So knowing when you're going into a negative situation, and sometimes we all know we're going into a meeting that may be very volatile, we can control the energy of the room just by taking those little steps. And then like today when Facebook crashed, right? Of course, that's my lifeline to the world. Seriously. And then, a lot of other people were the same as me. Like, did I get hacked? What happened? Is it me? And finally I turned it off my computer and I went outside for an hour and I walked around my yard and I took pictures of some wildflowers and talked to the donkey and the goat and I just spent time outside. And then, of course, by the time I came back in, it was up. And then I could post all my pretty pictures. But that's like my lifeline to the world. So again, I took that frustration and instead of just, I was like, okay, we'll just do something different. What can, almost like the word repent doesn't have really anything to do with sin. It's more like turn around. That's what it means. So, something's not it's not working. If you go right, then go left, just having those options. So yes, you're right. I do dance around the shadows, but, we're learning to dance together.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's it, right? Like it's all like all of us here sitting in this space, we're all healers and we do this work all the time, but that doesn't mean that we have all the answers or that this is an easy road for us either. I mean, being human is a challenge. It's also a beautiful experience. So it's finding that balance with it all. And every step of the way, I think is just a learning process and how are you going to do with it? I kind of like working in the shadows, but I do it with a lot of lights on. So, I do it through play and art a lot of the time. But also, having a really good cry when you need it and just letting that out. And I will sometimes, if I'm like really just down in that space, and people will say, well, you need to cheer up. And I'll be like, I really don't. Like, this is a valid emotion that I'm feeling right now. And I want to sit in it and I want to honor that space that it's in. And I want to let it out. I want to let my whole body feel it, and I will put on a sappy movie that I know is going to make me cry. And, and I'll sit down and I'll watch that movie, but it'll be a good cry, and I think that there's so much, and we need to do a whole podcast on this, and we will. But there's so much toxic positivity out there that it's almost like this internal mission for myself to kind of, put the shield up and and just be like, no, it's okay, you can be sad.
Yeah,
like,
shield
I
yourself from that positivity.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
laughing
and
because I understand.
right, I know, right? And I am the one that's like, I'm always like throwing out empowerment stuff and and inspirational stuff and picking people up and I in general am a quote positive person, for the most part, but there's a difference between walking towards joy and just slapping a be joyful sticker on everything and that's how you go around and and do life. And so I guess if you get nothing out of this podcast today, it's that whatever you're feeling, feel it with all of its worth. And, and then from there, act on it in a healthy way. And that's, I think, what we're trying to do is acknowledge it and act on it in a healthy way. Let's just go around real quick and say give them some specific things that they can do to kind of tackle this. Ramona, I'll have you go first because you started it out.
Well, I started giggling because I had this image in my head in 2020 when we were doing the first drum circle after everyone had been locked down for 2 months, and we did it outside. And so we had this whole conversation about recognizing when something is showing up in our body. And so I came up with this phrase: if it's tight, it ain't right.
Yeah.
So
I like
if you're feeling tightness, if you're contracting your body, if you're contracting yourself to refrain from experiencing whatever it is that's showing up, that is a sign that you need to let it flow. Let it come out, whether it's through conversation, whether it's through tears, whether it's through art, whether it's through writing. You have to allow it to move. The energy needs to move through your body so that it doesn't become trapped, because when we trap our emotions in our body, it becomes pain.
Yep.
And it may not be physical pain to start out with, but if you keep trapping the same issue over and over and over again, then all of a sudden you're like, wow, why does my lower back hurt all the time? All the time. I have a client right now that I'm working with that's what we're working on, is helping her release that. So if it's tied, it ain't right. Let it flow.
I love it. That needs to be on a sticker.
Words
That's
to
a
live by.
Words to live by.
So I like that, Ramona, and I think it was you that said something earlier, but it might have been one of the 3 times that we already tried to record this. But what it was is that
Perseverance prevails.
yes, and now I forgot what it was.
I love
I'm
it.
sorry. But wait, I'm gonna just say the other thing and maybe it will come. But basically, that they're messengers. So when these negative emotions come up, they're messages. So for example, if you feel really angry, like angry is a sign that something needs to change in your life. Like that to me is what anger tells me. It's not just me, it's like written in a book somewhere, I swear. But anyway, so what do I do when I know that? Like, first of all, I either have to like make a change, or maybe I can't change the situation, so I have to leave the situation, or I have to change the way I am with the situation. Like something needs to shift. And when negative emotions, like when anger comes up, like I used to get mad at myself because I was angry. That didn't lead to anything good, just it's more negative emotion on top of negative emotion. So, but like when I get angry, I will talk to myself. I am a big like self-talk proponent, right? So I'll just be like, okay, it's okay that I'm angry. I'm angry right now. That's all right. It's going to pass. And it's valid that I'm angry because this thing happened and I can understand why I'm angry. Like I'll talk myself through it, And then I just feel like it's like a shadow work thing too. So that part of myself needs some attention. It needs some reassurance. It needs to know that it's understood, that it's loved, regardless that it feels that way. So I do that. And then I also, if I'm like overcome with a certain emotion, depending on like what it is, I do different things for different emotions sometimes, but like to shake it out, to literally just shake it out. Like Shannon, you do tapping, you tap it out. Like your body needs some movement, some stimulation, and it needs to have a redirection of energy. So that's why we do things like that.
I love it. Shannon, what do you got?
So yeah, definitely tapping. Yes, that, like when I was in traffic the other day and we were stopped on the freeway, it's like, I want to get home, and so tapping that, and that's another way, just moving that energy. I think another important thing, at least for me, is maybe even sometimes asking, whose is this? Is this really mine?
Yeah.
Because sometimes
Empath
we can be
101. Empath 101.
Well, and it could be even something that we've absorbed from our families that, and it's like, well, this is not mine anymore. That's not my belief anymore, but it's coming up because it's something because I'm still working with my parents, that has to be healed before maybe we can take that next step, or I can take that next step in the relationship. So I think that's also important to understand that a lot of times when we're feeling icky or something, it's not actually us. It's something else that we picked up. And then if we ask that question and it's like, oh, that's Uncle Donnie's crap, I don't need to carry that around, and sometimes just knowing that. And I don't actually have an Uncle Donnie. I don't know where that came from.
I was like, ooh, Uncle Donnie's going to be real mad when he hears this.
I did the same thing in my head.
Like, Uncle Donnie.
I love it.
It's just like, okay, that's not mine. I can let it go. And then, and I think Ramona and I kind of talked about this the other day, is sometimes it doesn't have to be this big in-depth thing. It can be just, oh, here's this energy. I don't need it. Let it go. And sometimes we do. Of course, I prefer the lesser of the two. I always try to take the easy way first. But yeah, so my favorite, I guess, would be a tapping, or if I can go outside, that can instantly, because then you've got, if I go outside, I immediately have a dog, a cat, a chicken, a donkey, and a goat like, Mom's outside. And it takes me out of whatever I was, where I was. So yeah, but if you can go outside, and put your feet in the ground. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love grounding. I have no shoes on at all times if possible. Yeah. Yeah, and I love all of the suggestions. I think for me, some of the things that haven't been mentioned already is even just sometimes I will just be like, what the hell is this? Why is this upsetting me? Or where is this coming from? Like, and I will, depending on, like, if it's an anger or frustration thing, I'll just yell it out, and start to really redirect, so I'm redirecting what I'm doing. And then I will even sometimes sit down and journal about what was happening at the time that this trigger was coming in. Like, what was it? What was happening with me? Who were the people involved? What is this about? Is this bringing up something from the past that I haven't dealt with yet? I mean, I just had something come up the other day that was from something that happened 2 years ago. And I was like, I dealt with this already. Why is this back in my face? And so then I had to spend some time with it. Okay. And start, okay, why, I guess this is still a thing. Let me deal with it and kind of work through it. But I think also there's sometimes it's I don't want to deal with that emotion at that moment. Like, it's too much that's coming in at you and I can't process that at the time. So I'll do an immersion of something else so that I'm completely taking myself out of where I am. It can be playing a video game. It can be watching a television show. It can be creating art, going for a walk in the woods, anything that will take me completely out of where I am at that particular moment. And I need to deep dive. I just totally immerse into it. And you said it earlier, Shannon, I am a very big proponent of, this is the only time being in the present. This is it. This is all you have. The past is gone. You cannot change it. The future hasn't happened yet. All you have right now is right now. That's it. You can't do anything else, control anything else. You can plan, but even the plan, be in the moment of the planning, right? So give yourself into everything that is happening in that space, in that moment, fully and completely. And that experience, I think, will be a more profound experience for you as you're doing it. And it'll allow you to deep dive even further. And it's okay to not be able to face those emotions. We're not saying, everything comes up, you gotta just go right down and head it off. And, that's not what we're saying. We're saying you do have to recognize that it's an emotion. You do have to deal with it at some point. And the longer you wait to deal with those types of things, the more harm it can cause you physically, mentally, and spiritually. And you will feel it. Ramona touched on it a little bit too. You will feel this in your body. So if you can start backing up a little bit and just being more aware, being more present, and then also give yourself some grace, because we're all feeling all of the things, and it's okay to feel all the things. Just choose how you're going to act and what you're going to do with them.
Yeah. And I also have something to what you just said that's interesting, because I had a mentor some years back that basically swore and convinced me that anything I did besides my spiritual practice is a distraction. So anything I did, I was distracting myself from my spiritual practice, and I had to sit in the emotions and feel them and all this stuff. Like when I went to town to buy bread, that was a distraction from my spiritual practice, like way overboard, right? So what I realized after I kind of got away from that mentor is, wait a minute, sometimes a distraction is a good thing. If you're using discernment, if you just can't handle the emotion at that time and you need to just go do something else and distract yourself with that, that's not a crime. That's a good thing because you're using your discernment. You can do it with awareness. You can do it with presence. You can even do it to come back to presence that you didn't have because the emotion was too overwhelming. So there's many different things. It's not like you have to do this one thing. You have to sit there and feel it. No, but eventually, if you can, and when you can get back to it, that's good because you're like moving it through. But there's just so many, there's no wrong way to do it. But the more you push it down consistently, it's going to bother you later on, like we said.
And,
Yeah, absolutely. I just want
to go. I would like
go ahead.
to give a caveat to that on the other end of that coin is that if you're feeling something and it's in process in the moment and someone else can't handle it, that's not your problem.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's the other thing is that for me personally, if I don't deal with it in the moment, then I'm gonna eat a bag of potato chips later.
Yeah, I mean, if you be with it as it's there, that's like a great practice. And if somebody else can't handle it, that is their own problem.
Right,
That's not on you,
So I think that there are many, many ways we can look at this, but just know that it's okay to pause and return. It's okay to experience in the moment. It's okay to do however you need to navigate your emotional triggers, because that's how we're going to heal. Avoiding it, running away from it, pushing it down, those are the things that are going to cause pain.
Right. Yeah. And the more we push a certain emotion away, the more we don't want to feel like we're abandoning ourselves and our needs, and whatever that emotion is telling us that we need, we're just not giving that to ourselves.
Right.
So
And
that also that you start to sabotage yourself,
And then it's just going to keep circling and circling back and circling back until there's an explosion, and then you have no choice but to deal with it.
Yeah. It's a cycle. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think too, the whole idea of what you were saying, Ramona, about it's not your problem if somebody else, can't handle that. Just the whole idea of awareness of what you need for yourself, and knowing that everyone else has their own what they need. Right. So we all have to respect that somebody else is going to do something that they need for themselves, and you're going to do something that you need to do for you. And that's all okay. Where the line crosses is when someone is trying to get you to be something that you're not wanting to be, that you are not, and or do something that you do not want to do. And so it's just, and it's hard sometimes, because if you've got somebody that's close to you that's can't handle, I mean, I spent a lot of time being told I'm too something, and I think, that that's a very common thing that happens.
That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast.
That's right. Yeah, too much. That's the title.
Yeah, you're too much is the title. Yeah, somebody jot that down. Absolutely. And so it's just stepping into yourself, right? Own your truth of who you are and what you need, and know that you are, it's okay, everything that you're feeling. Those are all valid. Feelings are valid. Yeah. And then you have to choose what you're going to do with them from that point forward. Yeah.
I think that's the big thing there, is that it's about learning ways to navigate the feels instead of being consumed by them.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I don't know, in yoga we talked a lot about responding versus reacting. So I think that's what you're saying, Shannon, earlier. It's like, when something comes up, do you flip out immediately and spill it onto everyone around you? Or do you are you able to pause and come to that choice point where you can, metabolize that and then respond in a certain way that's healthier,
Yeah. And if you find that you are of the personality that is reactive, right? I'm a different person when I get behind the wheel of a car, but nobody else hears me outside of my car. So I can say all the things to the very nice humans who are making me insane as I drive down the road. Right? So it's just knowing how you're affecting. So I'm saying that I'm in the car, it's out, nobody else is hearing it. If I was walking through the supermarket doing that to the people in the supermarket, that would probably not be such a good thing. So it's just that awareness. Does anybody else have anything they want to add before we wrap up? We covered a lot in this
Find
one.
your safe place. Find your safe places. Because sometimes processing requires communication.
Mhm.
So
And your safe people.
nowhere-
Yeah.
That's what I mean, is find your community that can literally do this. Hold this container and say, okay, I'm just gonna let you do what you need to do.
Mhm.
And listen, this community that's in this podcast right now is part of my container, because whenever things are going down, I'm like, okay, Ramona's crumbling. Who can hold the space? And usually it goes on for a few days, and then all of a sudden, like my daughter-in-law says, oh wow, this is a 360. You're a completely different person now.
Right.
Yeah. But you're not, right? Like that's the rub behind all of it. Like we are every
yeah.
version
I'm
of
all of that.
ourselves.
I'm all
Yeah.
of that. I many years ago coined my Gemini as the drill sergeant and the goddess. Because I'm equally both.
Right. Yeah. I love
So-
those. That's why I love astrology so much, because I love studying the nuances of, all the particular parts of us and how they interact on extreme opposites. And yeah, I usually look to the stars after. I'm like, why the hell do okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
Exactly. Yep. I'm like, oh my God, my life is falling apart. Oh, 5 planets are retrograde.
Yes.
5 planets are in retrograde.
Cancer moon. Oh, all right. That explains everything. I'll be fine. I'll be over here for a little bit.
Yep. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would just say, like, my closing thought is be easy on yourself, like your mind is trying the best it can to protect you and think of all these things and just react quickly to all these problems, but it doesn't know any better, Don't talk to it so mean. Just have a softness if you can for what's going on up there. That's what I try to do.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Shannon, do you have anything you want to add?
I think y'all did it.
You made it through our podcast about talking about negative emotions and shadow work.
I know, it's awesome. Well,
Cool.
you guys were like throwing out the astrology stuff, and I am diving deep with Black Moon Lilith to help with my shadow work. So yeah, I'm bringing in those goddess energies, and working with Kali and some of the other ones that are not my favorite energy, but
They're destroyers.
Yeah, get those
I like the
destroyers in here. Line them
destroyers.
up.
I like the destroyers.
Get them in here. We need them.
Burn that shit down and build it back up again.
Exactly. Sometimes you have to.
I know. So no, this has been great. Yeah. And I in this group, we have found people that we can trust, that we can talk to, that we can just let it all out. And it's not that you guys are like, oh, here, let me fix it. Is you just listen. You're just holding that space, like Ramona said, you're just holding that space. And you wait. And I think this is what's most important. And I'm learning how to do this, is you wait for someone to ask. Like, okay, so what do you think I should do? Because 99% of the time people don't want to know what to do.
Yeah.
They just want to spill it, which is fine. But is there something that you can suggest? And I'm like, oh, you got a laptop?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna share, Shannon, something that I do in those cases. Are you looking to just be heard, or would you like me to share some perspective?
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
I have
I
actually
learned that a long
stolen
time
that
ago,
as
and I'm
well.
like, ooh, that's good. What was that?
I stole that from you as well, because I spend most of my time in shadow work working on not trying to fix, to
Mhm.
be the fixer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah, I'll just close it out. For me, just everybody, said it already. Just love yourself and give yourself the space that you need, and know that in us, you have a safe space.
Yes.
We won't judge you. It is what
I
it is.
love you unconditionally.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. And for that, we thank you for listening to us on the Bring Joy Forward podcast. You can find us everywhere that podcasts are, and you can go to bringjoyforward.com. And we look forward to seeing you soon. You have been listening to the Bring Joy Forward podcast. Conversations to explore, heal, and grow. You can find us at bringjoyforward.com, and we'd love to have you join us in our community Facebook group. Thank you for listening.